This young man, relying on his invulnerable body, looked down upon Shaolin Kung Fu. The abbot, intending to temper his character, instructed his disciples to manipulate wooden stakes to attack him. Unfazed, the young man handled them with ease. But as several wooden stakes struck him, their combined force weighed a ton. The young man was firmly pinned down and couldn't break free. He had no choice but to practice martial arts diligently. The young man's name was Stephen. He had learned martial arts from his mother, May, since childhood. By the time he reached manhood, he possessed exceptional skills. However, he was mischievous by nature, getting into fights, talking back to his teachers, and causing all sorts of trouble. His two elder brothers always ended up being punished because of him. During the Qing dynasty, tensions between the Manchu and Han people ran deep. Stephen couldn't stand how the Manchus acted superior. He often stirred up trouble. One day, he barged into the Manchu martial arts school to defend the honor of the Han people. Having cultivated an iron-like body since childhood, punches felt like a gentle breeze against him. Combined with his exceptional martial arts skills, none of the martial artists present could match him. The headmaster, enraged by his audacity, immediately ordered his execution as a warning. Stephen's brothers, unwilling to let the situation escalate, quickly whisked him away. He could run, but he couldn't hide forever. The headmaster recognized the boxing style Stephen used and went straight to the Guangdong Guild Hall to demand justice. He threatened to raise the entire guild hall if Stephen wasn't handed over within 3 days. Upon learning the whole story, Stephen's father was furious and was about to hand over Stephen to protect the guild hall from harm. May, deeply loving her son, claimed to have a solution. 3 days later, the headmaster, leading his martial artists, stormed the guild hall to seize Stephen. May stepped forward, offering to take responsibility. The headmaster, captivated by her beauty, declared he would forgive everything if she married him. May smiled faintly and assumed the two characters holding a ram stance. If the headmaster could pry her legs apart, she would agree to his proposal. The headmaster, unconcerned, found May's legs as solid as rock. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't separate them. Defeated, the headmaster had no choice but to leave. Stephen had bought some time, but it was not a permanent solution. At that time, the Shaolin Temple was powerful. To ensure her son's safety, she took her 3 sons to the Shaolin Temple. The abbot was initially reluctant to take them in, but May's pleas moved him. He reluctantly agreed to accept the 3 brothers and have them train under the 36 chambers of Shaolin. Leaping across rooftops was the most basic skill taught in the 36 chambers. Both sides were near vertical slopes. Climbing the ladder required pure momentum, without using hands for support. Stephen, unconcerned, easily reached the top with a burst of energy. Such tests were child's play to him. Seeing his disdain for Shaolin Kung Fu, the abbot, Master Sandy, personally intervened. Light as a swallow, he effortlessly scaled the wall, then kicked away a steel plate and executed a split in midair. Stephen lost his balance and fell. Despite his defeat, he refused to be convinced. While his fellow disciples diligently practiced their bench training, he slacked off. Master Sandy, noticing this, kicked over a bench, giving Stephen an unexpected chill. Picking up the bench, he engaged Stephen in a sparring session. They exchanged blows, each displaying their skills. But in the end, Master Sandy, being the abbot, prevailed. With a flying kick, he put Stephen in his place. Yet even after this, Stephen's rebellious nature remained unchanged. Tired of the vegetarian meals, Stephen persuaded his fellow disciples to sneak out for dog meat. At night, they gathered in the training hall and formed a human ladder to climb over the wall. The wall bordered the back mountain. Once they crossed it, they would be free. However, the weight of so many people proved too much for the beam, and they were caught red-handed by Master Sandy. Quick-witted Stephen claimed they were training diligently through the night, but Master Sandy wasn't fooled. Turning the tables, he said, "Since you're so diligent, I'll reward you with non-stop training, day and night." Besides their training, Shaolin disciples were also responsible for daily chores. Stephen was assigned to dishwashing, but even then, he couldn't resist goofing off. The Lantern Festival arrived, and Stephen's mischievous heart started racing again. He had discovered that the kitchen drain led outside the temple and urged his fellow disciples to join him in watching the lantern show. However, after the last incident, no one trusted him. So, while everyone was asleep, Stephen snuck out alone through the drain and reached the back mountain. The Lantern Festival at the foot of the mountain was spectacular, and Stephen, disguised in new clothes, wanted to join the fun. but the Qing government forbade Han people from getting too close. So, he climbed onto a nearby rooftop. His unrestrained cheers caught the attention of the Guangdong governor. He immediately ordered his men to arrest Stephen. As the governor was about to have him captured, Stephen declared himself a lay disciple of Shaolin. The governor's demeanor changed instantly. The Shaolin temple had always been a thorn in the side of the Qing court. Finally encountering a Shaolin disciple, the governor naturally wanted to extract information. Fortunately, Stephen remembered the temple rules and used them as an excuse. The governor wasn't in a hurry. After all, patience was key to catching big fish. Despite spending days at Shaolin, Stephen's temperament remained unchanged. While other disciples trained with water stakes, he found ways to avoid getting wet. Only when Master Sandy noticed did he jump into the water, pretending to be diligent. Even when made to start over, he deliberately disrupted the water stakes. Master Sandy clapped his hands, and the surrounding monks jumped into the water, directing the water stakes to attack Stephen. He could handle one wooden stake, but the combined force of several was overwhelming. This time, Stephen couldn't escape. Despite this experience, Stephen remained unconvinced. He snuck down the mountain to meet the governor. The governor, seeking to learn the secrets of the 36 chambers, enticed Stephen to demonstrate his skills. Stephen fell for the bait and performed his rooftop leaping technique. He then had the martial artists act as wooden pillars and demonstrated the bridge hand technique he had just learned. The governor, impressed, spoke deceptively, claiming his dream was to use martial arts to bridge the gap between the Manchu and Han people. In truth, he aimed to gradually weaken Shaolin's influence. As a gesture of goodwill, he gifted Stephen a yellow-bannered silk robe. Unaware of the governor's true intentions, Stephen showed off his new robe to his fellow disciples. Such arrogance was bound to backfire. Master Sandy caught him in the act. He instantly recognized it as the attire of Manchu martial artists. Shaolin had always upheld the principle of opposing the Qing and restoring the Ming dynasty. Stephen's actions violated the most serious temple rule. Following the rules, Master Sandy expelled Stephen from Shaolin. Stephen felt wronged. He believed he was utilizing the Manchu martial artists to overthrow the Qing. Since Shaolin wouldn't have him, he would make his own way. Stephen went to the governor's mansion. Learning of his expulsion, the governor pretended to intercede on his behalf, but secretly saw him as useless and planned to eliminate him. His advisor proposed a sinister plan. One of their Manchu martial artists was about to marry a Han woman. They could use this opportunity to have Stephen lure more Shaolin disciples to join the Qing court, effectively crushing Shaolin's fighting force. Stephen, naive and trusting, believed the governor's words. He had befriended several skilled disciples in the 36 chambers and snuck back to Shaolin that night to bring 9 of them with him. By the time Shaolin realized what had happened, the group had vanished. Finding Stephen's invitation, Master Sandy went alone to the governor's mansion to investigate. Seeing the tight security, Master Sandy felt a sense of unease. Fearing for his disciples' safety, he infiltrated the bride's house. On the wedding night, the 10 of them, dressed in fine attire, presented themselves to the governor. As the bride's sedan chair entered the courtyard, the governor produced cups of poisoned wine, intending to have the unsuspecting Shaolin disciples drink it. Suddenly, the sedan chair burst open, revealing the bride. It was Master Sandy in disguise. He ordered the disciples to discard their cups. Only Stephen, defiant as ever, drank the poisoned wine in one gulp. He had long resented Master Sandy and immediately attacked him. The governor, dropping his pretense, ordered his men to surround them. The poison coursed through Stephen's body, and he began to cough up blood. Master Sandy quickly sealed his acupoints. Only then did Stephen realize the governor's true nature. But escaping wouldn't be easy. Seeing they were surrounded, Stephen led the others towards the backyard. However, the backyard was also guarded. The 10 disciples gave up on fighting their way out and used their rooftop leaping skills. But soldiers awaited them on the rooftops. 5 of them were forced to land, diving into the water to avoid the swords, then breaking the bridge with their combined strength. The remaining disciples used the floating beams as water stakes to cross. The untrained soldiers fell into the water. Master Sandy stepped onto a beam, using the momentum to leap to the other side. The governor attempted to follow suit. Stephen, however, placed a wooden stake, sending the governor crashing down. The surrounding soldiers rushed to his aid. They could have escaped, but Stephen, fueled by anger, charged back into the mansion. He spat a mouthful of poisoned blood into the governor's mouth, poisoning him as well. Satisfied, Stephen returned to Shaolin and resumed his training. This is Kung Fu Movie Recaps from YouTube. Until next time.